It is time to inform you that now is the time to panic. If you would like to go and grab yourself a cup of tea and probably a snack of some description, comfort food is probably a good idea, and find yourself a fluffy animal to cuddle, now would be the time. Hello lovely, my name's Zoe, my brain's a dragon, and we are halfway through Camp April 2022 and I have done nothing. Actually, no, that's not strictly true. I just don't have any words on my novel itself, and I do not have any words really on my outline. I have managed to find some pretty big dead ends, throw myself into them, and end up in a little bit of a ball, and be told that this is actually just part of my process, so it'll be fine. But that doesn't change the fact that we are legitimately concerned at this point that perhaps I've bitten off more than I can chew, and perhaps the goal I've set is actually not the goal that I needed. I have got myself an appropriate sized cup of tea to help deal with this, as well as an enthusiastic border collie and a cat who you probably can't see but can likely either hear or sense the presence of, and we are going to figure out what we're going to do from here. How did we end up at this point anyway? It looked like I had a really solid plan, particularly given the goals for 2022, right? Seemed reasonable, seemed logical. It all made sense on paper. Then we tried to apply it. And we all know that May just sort of appeared out of nowhere, and then here's April all of a sudden, and it's Australia in autumn and there's a fly in my house. It wasn't here until I started filming. That tells you everything you need to know about how well things are going, doesn't it? Give me a minute. We know that I was looking to add to our handy-dandy resource folder so that when I did hit panic, I would have something in there. The problem became that I didn't find anything that I wanted to add. In fact, the resources that I thought would be the most useful turned out not to be as helpful as I had expected and really did the exact opposite. I have this really narrow threshold of if something can help me, and there are a lot of factors that are involved in that, including how much energy Brain Dragon and I have and how much Brain Dragon is willing to adjust or translate terms or concepts so that they work better for what we're doing. Unfortunately, I have been a little bit out of it and Brain Dragon just doesn't have the energy. One of the books that I think will be helpful if I can get through it and actually read it, the reason that I stopped is Brain Dragon and I had a bit of trouble with a difference in use of terms. It's not even that big a deal. It's just because the way that particular author used their terminology, Brain Dragon went, "That's not right. That's not the term for that. I refuse." And I don't know if you've ever tried to argue with a baby dragon, but those things just don't argue. They often sulk and often throw tantrums and curl up in a ball with their wings over their nose and huff. I have a lot of tea, but I don't think I have enough tea to deal with that. So that left us with no additional help from the resources that I wanted to add to the book. I tried to go back and look at the resources I had in the book. The problem was Brain Dragon is very tired, and the main thing that Brain Dragon is interested in is this one scene, which is, we think, at the midpoint. But because the only thing that Brain Dragon is focused on right now is this one scene, it means when I was looking at how to get the scenes around it to function, Brain Dragon just didn't really want to play. There was this one happy spot, and that's all we had. So I have been trying to get Brain Dragon to look at, well, what happens before this? And what happens after this? And how did this get set up so that the scene makes sense? Did I mention baby dragons with the wings and the huffing? I then tried to play the if-then game, which went about as well as anything else so far, and I'm quite disappointed in that because usually if-then is a fantastic game. I normally really enjoy it, but not this time because I just don't have the mental energy to do it. I, in fact, completely ignored my story as much as possible for nearly a week, specifically because I had felt so bad after reading the books and having an utter stompy foot tantrum because the terms were wrong. They're not wrong, by the way. It's just that I have a different understanding of them and I don't understand and I can't translate them because my brain is tired. So I took it right back to original concept. And the original concept is this is meant to be a ridiculous, over-the-top, highly shenanigans romance with the trappings of a Victorian setting so that I could have fun. And I had come up with the concept while watching a Korean drama. So what did I do? I went and watched Korean dramas because that seemed like a really good at the time. 3 series later, and I'm starting to wonder if maybe I might have misinterpreted that. But there is some good news. I went back and listened to book 1. This is book 2 in a series. And by that I mean a romance series, so the events of book 1 are basically the backstory for a good chunk of book 2. The characters are consistent across the books, and that means that I had somewhere to start, and I also had some interesting bits to pick up if I decided to. This meant that I could actually go and look at what is the romance arc that I'm trying to build. Because this is not the same romance arc as I did for book 1, and this is not the same romance arc as I initially thought that I was going to be running with, and that was probably part of the problem. I knew I wasn't running with the right romance as a structural thing, but my brain was too tired to tell me that's what was wrong. It just said, Stompyfoot, this is wrong, and we can't do it. No. Dragon says no. Reading back over the book gave me a much better idea. I also realized that, realistically speaking, these books really are 30,000 words too short. I don't know whether or not it's worth doing a 50,000 word draft if I'm going to need to be adding 30,000 words anyway. But that's not the point, because this is Camp April. We need to start somewhere. The second good thing that came from watching K-dramas was that I realized I was holding back on the ridiculous factor. And what I needed to do was pick my favorite types of scenes and lean into them hard. So this means all of the ridiculous, oh no, somehow dramatically they almost kiss. Oh no, dramatically they happen to be in the same situation. Oh no, someone's fallen asleep somewhere that they shouldn't have and they're gonna get tucked in and it's super cute. Oh no, somebody insulted the honor of the other party. It's going to be dramatic. And this is what I'd kind of left out of book 1 because it didn't feel right for that particular story. But this story, sure, why not? If I'm gonna miss 30,000 words anyway and basically need to add almost half a book, maybe what I need to do is just lean real hard into the scenes that I know should be in there so that I can make it work. And the third thing that April has taught me is never trust your preparations, because guess who ran out of battery? Did I mention that there is not enough tea for this? Because if I haven't mentioned there's not enough tea for this, there's not enough tea for this. The other thing that I did learn from watching the ridiculous amount of K-dramas, though, was part of the problem that I have is a lack of space and getting the word count too tight. We've discussed the 30,000 word problem, so you're not exactly surprised by this, I'm sure. So this gave me an idea that perhaps what I needed to do was, instead of writing a draft so it's just prose, maybe what I needed to do was have a look at restructuring the project. I'm clearly having trouble with the outlining stage, and this is camp. It's not designed to necessarily to be a novel unless you choose to. So what I might do is try and do a really detailed outline and see how that gets me in terms of word count. It's entirely possible that I will end up with 50,000 words because I will be like, and in this scene we are going to have the moment where this dramatic piece from a K-drama would go, and it looks like this. In fact, I really want to add in this detail, and this detail, and this detail, and this detail, and this detail. And then all of a sudden I have significantly more words. I will also maybe be able to then chuck in the prose versions of scenes that I'm confident in, and that could very well take me easily to 50,000 words. I know how much I ramble. I am confident in my ability to make shit up and have it be long enough that it'll make some kind of sense. Vaguely. Very vaguely. So vaguely that I might not be able to use it, but maybe we could get it done, yay? This means that I am still trying to figure out how I want to outline this, because I don't have a lot of energy. I am really tired, quite symptomy. Brain Dragon just doesn't want to play the game. So I'm actually picking up yet another book to try and see if that one will help. I know, you would think after 2 complete disasters, I would not continue to do the same thing, but this one's in Kindle Unlimited, and I'm crossing my fingers and we'll roll the dice. The other thing that I'm doing is I'm enlisting my people, because I collect people as much as I collect anything else, and my people have said this is actually pretty standard for my process. Either I will be so enthusiastic about a project that I'll be able to get all the planning done and it'll look fantastic and I'll be really excited, and then I will get into it and I will just want to write all the things, and then we'll get to the second half of Act 2 and I'll want to cry and I won't want to go back, and then I will go back because I have to, and then we'll get it done, and then I'm a nightmare to live with while I happen to go through that second half of Act 2, and then everything's fine, and then I'm great, and then it's done and I'm exhausted and I pass out in a bowl for a while. The other way that I do it is this. I don't want to write it. I whinge, I complain, I get distracted, I try desperately not to have to do it. And then at about this point, at about the oh dear goodness, if I don't get something done now, I won't hit deadline, I throw myself headlong into the project and it still gets done, and I do things like write a novel in 10 days. Not gonna lie, I have done that before. That was because someone said I couldn't, and so I did. Maybe I won't write a 50,000 word novel. Maybe I will just have a really detailed outline. And you know what? As long as I have figured something out about it, that's great. And right now, I have figured out that sometimes I am a complete disaster of a human when it comes to doing my creative work, and I procrastinate a lot, and then we hit panic, and hopefully we'll find a way through this so that there is a story at the end and I don't feel like I have somehow let myself and the story and anybody who's trying to keep me company during the process down while doing it. I do know that this is also part of the thing about having my particular chronic conditions. I know that there are times when my brain is just too tired. There is too much going on and I cannot make it work. The thoughts that are required and the thought processes that are required to make a creative story, even if you're working at a very arbitrary decision level, they take energy and they take a capacity to be able to change what you had initially thought and to look at it from another point of view. And sometimes that is exhausting, and that's okay. The trick to it is knowing that it isn't a reflection on you as a person, as a creative, or even necessarily on your process. It's just a little bit of information about where you are right now. And that might mean that I need to go and grab out a tarot deck. It might mean that I need to go and grab a set of dice. It might mean that I need to go and spend some time with some generators so that something else is making the creative decisions and all I'm doing is yes, no, maybe. That's where I'm at. Complete panic with very little idea of where I'm going. And I think I can do this because I've got support. I have people and resources and chocolates, pets. I have outside, even though it's going to start raining because April is autumn, so what even is that? But we have options. We still have time. So let's see what we can get, because just because we don't get what we initially thought we were going to have doesn't mean it's a failure. It just means we've had a bigger learning experience than we initially thought we were going to, and that's okay too. I'm going to go and make myself another cup of gigantic tea, open these chocolates, see if I can get some actual plan to go in this actual folder of saving my butt when it gets to panic stations, and hopefully I will have some kind of adventure with shenanigans and silliness and sweet moments to share with you next time. Thank you for hanging out with me, lovely. I really appreciate it. Bye.